Alright. Vampires, zombies, vampires. Boy, this shit's gone viral, hasn't it? Let's back up, show you where I'm at. This interesting website called the FVZA, and thanks to Joey B for finding this and pointing it out in his one of his videos on updates and his zombie updates. He found this site through some method and briefly mentioned it. He didn't really go into detail. It's the FVZA, Federal Vampire and Zombie Agency. Of course, the minute he started looking, I'm thinking, okay, somebody set this up as a gimmick to sell something or something or another. And their description says, from 1869 to 1975, the Federal Vampire and Zombie Agency, FVZA, also known as the Vanguard, was responsible for controlling the nation's vampire and zombie population while overseeing scientific research into the undead. This site is a tribute to the men and women who served in the FVZA, especially the over 4,000 agents who lost their lives fighting to keep our country safe. In addition to paying tribute to the FVZA, this site hopes to call attention to dangerous research being done at the Santa Rosa Institute, research that runs the risk of bringing back a scourge of vampires worse than any before. And this is apparently signed by Dr. Hugo Pecos. Stories of vampires and zombie experiences can be scary. You can capture the terror this Halloween, see, by dressing up. See, I don't know. That's weird. But and then look at all these sponsors here on the site. And what's up with all of that, man? Boy, these people are steeped in it. And then we gotta say you're a daywalker. An incident, June 4th, 2012. A daywalker in Fargo. We'll get back to that in a minute. Let's go back to where I was looking at. And we want to start here. The Federal Vampire and Zombie Agency has the Science of Vampires, Part 1. In 1616, Italian scientist Ludovico Fatinelli published his Treatise on Vampires, in which he speculated that vampirism was caused by a microscopic pathogen. He was burned at the stake for heresy. Fortunately, science plowed ahead undeterred. The information included in this section is the result of work of countless dedicated men and women. The virus. The source of vampirism is the human vampiric virus, HVV. Like rabies, HVV belongs to the order of Mononegaviridae viruses with a non-segmented, negative-stranded RNA genome. Viruses in this group have a distinct bullet shape. The virus's natural host is a flea commonly found on cave-dwelling bats, especially the vampire bat. In the most common scenario, a bat which has been bitten by the flea passes the virus on to livestock and humans through a bite. Unlike many other viruses, the HVV virus is not airborne. Airborne viruses can travel from one host to another through the air and quickly cause an outbreak by infecting a significant number of people through the air ventilation systems in large public buildings, like for example a casino or shopping mall. While in theory HVV infection is possible through any exchange of bodily fluids, transmission occurs through the bite of an infected person in virtually every case. Stages of the disease, and we have some pictures here, electron micrograph of the HVV virus budding off of the infected cell, right? Infection. Within hours of being bitten, the victim develops a headache, fever, chills, and other flu-like symptoms as the body tries to fight off the infection. These symptoms can be easily confused with more common viral infections, although the presence of bite marks on the body are usually enough to confirm the diagnosis. This stage generally lasts between 6 and 12 hours, during which the vaccine is 100% effective. Stage 2, vampiric coma. Within 24 hours of being bitten, the victim will slip into a vampiric coma. During this phase, the pulse slows, breathing is shallow, and pupils are dilated. Then large numbers of people mistakenly buried alive while in vampiric comas gave rise to the myth that vampires sleep in coffins. And also I remember that part as far as the going, supposedly they think they're dead and then they come back from the dead, when in fact they never really died. It is commonly thought that anyone infected with HVV turns into a vampire. In fact, only a small percentage of people survive vampiric comas. Generally, the young, the old, and the feeble never come out of their vampiric comas and eventually die. The vast majority of people who survive vampiric comas are males between the ages of 18 to 35. Vampiric comas last about a day. The victim usually comes out of the coma the night after its onset. The vaccine is 50% effective when administered during the stage 2 of the infection. The longer the victim has been in the coma, the less effective the vaccine. And here it shows in 1800 France, an infected woman is giving a transfusion of goat's blood, a desperate, futile measure to ward off the disease. That was like back, they liked bleeding people back then. Oh, you're sick? Here, let's drain you. Anyway, stage 3 transformation. A bite victim who survives the coma will awaken fully transformed into a vampire. An acclimation period follows, characterized by confusion, despondency, and paranoia. Most vampires begin to hunt within 24 hours of transformation. The vaccine is of no use at this point. During vampire epidemics, many victims were buried while still in vampiric coma. Science of Vampires Part 2, Vampire Biology. A person who comes out of a vampiric coma fully transformed will have undergone a number of major physiological changes affecting the various systems of the body. The information included below is only an overview. For a more detailed account, try 2 classic texts, Henry Gray's Anatomy of the Vampire and Vesalius' 5 books on the structure of the vampire body. The brain and nervous system. Vampires' nervous system is similar to humans and it has proven to be their Achilles heel. Injuries to the spinal cord and brain can be devastating for vampires. While the vampire's spinal cord and nerves work as before transformation, a number of changes take place in the brain, and that altered brain chemistry goes a long way towards understanding vampire behavior. 1. Serotonin. Vampires have much lower levels of this neurotransmitter. In humans, low levels of serotonin trigger aggression and risky behavior. A study of murderers on death row revealed low levels of serotonin in their brains. 2. Dopamine. Another neurotransmitter. Dopamine induces feelings of well-being. In vampires, it is released during feeding and has a narcotic-like effect. Neural pathways activated in vampires during feeding are much like those found in addicts when using drugs. Circadian rhythms or circadian rhythms, chemical changes in the brain that help us rise and shine with the morning light, are reversed in vampires. Sense organs. Powerful sense organs give vampires an advantage both in hunting and eluding capture. Sneaking up on them is virtually impossible. They are aware of your presence long before you are aware of theirs. Normal eye, and then a vampire eye to the right. In vampires, the iris of each eye becomes hyperdilated, giving them what appear to be black eyes. While the iris dilation gives vampires excellent night vision, it renders them effectively blind in daylight. In addition, vampires suffer inflammation of the sclera, making the whites of the eyes appear red. Smell and hearing. Both senses are extremely acute, as vampires have double the receptor cells in their noses and ears compared to humans. In fact, vampires usually smell or hear a person coming long before they see one. Hair, skin, teeth, and fingernails. Part of the terror of encountering a vampire stems from dramatic changes to their outer appearance. Some of these changes are functional, while others remain a mystery. Teeth. During vampiric coma, the upper and lower eye teeth experience growth. Additional enamel is deposited on the crown of the tooth. Vampires will file the teeth to make them sharper for easier feeding. Hair. Vampires will lose all their bodily hair within 10 years of transformation, except for the tiny hairs in their ears known as cilia. Skin. A newly transformed vampire has the cilia, in case you don't know, that's your gyro. That's those tiny hairs in your ears that give you a sense of balance and keep you upright. It's like your gyroscope for your body, in case you didn't know that. A lot of people, of course, know that, but anyway. Skin. A newly transformed vampire has sickly pale yellow skin tone that turns to blue over the next few days. In time, the skin becomes more and more translucent. A fine network of veins become visible under the skin. Fingernails. Vampire fingernails thicken and grow at a rapid rate. Vampires will file their nails to a point which helps them in grabbing victims. Circulatory system. The most profound differences between humans and vampires are found in the circulatory system. These differences enable vampires to survive massive trauma, what would kill a human being. Vampire blood. Vampire blood is called ichor. Modifications to the hemoglobin in the blood cells makes vampire blood appear black. 2. Heart. Vampire blood is pumped via contraction of skeletal muscle rather than the heart, which eventually atrophies from disuse. 3. Adrenaline. This emergency hormone, which normally kicks in during fight or flight situations, is found in consistently large amounts in vampire blood. The presence of adrenaline, along with changes in muscle, bone, connective tissue, account for vampires' extraordinary strength, speed, and aggressiveness. Body temperature. Vampires' core body temperature is only about 60 degrees compared to over 98 degrees for humans. This marked difference proved to be great help for modern vampire fighters, as it made vampires easily distinguishable from humans when viewed through heat-sensitive infrared imagery. Note the difference between the vampire and the human in the picture at the right. Seen through night vision, a vampire attacks its prey, and there's a human with white and the vampire with a lower heat signature. Muscular skeletal system. Adaptations in their skeletal and muscular systems gives vampires significant advantages over humans. Muscles. Connective tissue. About 90% of vampire muscles are the fast twitch variety, compared to 50% for the average human. Fast twitch muscles enable short bursts of maximal force, ideal when hunting prey. Also, vampire ligaments and tendons thicken in response to the workload imposed upon them by the muscles. Skeletal system. Vampires' bones thicken and the adaptation necessary to support their newly powerful muscles. Aging and life expectancy. While no vampire on record has ever died of natural causes, vampires do undergo an aging process, just not in the same way as humans. Vampires do not age on a molecular genetic level, but their life of hunting and eluding capture creates tremendous wear and tear in the form of injuries to bones and tissue. Because they presented such a danger to society, most vampires were destroyed long before their outer limits of their lifespan were determined. Ancient history offers some clues, however. In ancient China, there was said to be one vampire in the emperor's court through the entire Zhou dynasty, which would put his age at 550. More accurate modern records have certified vampires of over 200 years old. Contrary to the opinions of many theologians, vampiric longevity is not the result of some pact with the devil, but rather an ability to ward off the DNA damage that occurs during cell division in normal humans. Specifically, the protective caps on the ends of chromosomes, known as telomeres, get chewed up over time in humans, but not in vampires. Here's a 125-year-old vampire photographed in Spain, 1901. Note the curved spine and the lack of hair. Though their DNA may have the ability to resist aging, a vampire's appearance will change dramatically over time. Vampires lose all their hair within 10 years of transformation. Over time, a vampire's fat stores shrink away, and his skin becomes thinner and more transparent, giving a withered, dried appearance. Aging also leaves vampires with pronounced curvature of the spine. Despite their rather feeble appearance, older vampires are still extremely powerful and agile. Many a vampire hunter has made the mistake of underestimating them, and that's because they're like sinewy, the tendon sinewy, little tough stuff, man. So there's part 2. And actually then go on with a link to part 3. So we'll back up here. We'll do this. We'll go boom. And then we'll jump back over here and go to sociology. Alright, so vampire sociology. Vampire behavior resembles our own in more ways than we might imagine. By conducting extensive interviews with vampires along with observing their behavior in the wild, scientists have been able to arrive at a reasonable understanding of their world. The newly transformed. The first few days after coming out of vampiric coma are especially difficult for a vampire. A newly transformed vampire awakes disoriented, its judgment clouded by competing impulses and memories of its previous life, but all those are drowned out by a fierce, intense desire for blood. This urge for blood eventually snaps into a vampire into a focus and then sets about finding a way to fill that urge. The hunting pack. Though lone vampires are not uncommon, most vampires find it an advantage to either join an existing hunting pack or create one of their own. Each path has its own advantages. Joining an existing pack offers security, access to blood, and protection from other packs. However, new members are low in the pecking order and are often forced to put themselves in dangerous positions, such as on advanced scouting missions. In addition, new members of the pack are the last to feed, if they get to feed at all. Vampires possessing natural leadership skills may find it better to hunt on their own and eventually bring some of their victims into the fold. I'm sure everybody knows that show on Sci-Fi Channel called Lost Girl. If you don't know about it, just check it out once. It's about vampires. She's a succubus, basically an energy vampire, and she sucks the life force. And anyway, it's a fictional sci-fi show series every week, but you'd be surprised how much truth is laid within. Well, of course, many of you wouldn't be surprised knowing what they put in movies and everything else, but there's a lot of symbolism also in these shows like this as well. Anyway, onward. With vampires unable to reproduce, the hunting pack is a family unit for their life. In a successful pack, each vampire has its role, and there is little dissension. A typical pack is made up of 4 vampires, with 1 alpha vampire and 3 underlings. 4 seems to be the ideal number for a hunting pack. Any more than that, not everyone always gets a chance to feed. Any less, and the hunting becomes appreciably riskier. So, of course, in the distant past, when vampire control was in a more primitive state, large vampire armies rose up and spread by overwhelming entire towns. Are vampires sentimental? Do they love? In a limited sense, yes. Vampires are capable of developing loyalties and behaving selflessly in the name of the pack. However, the pack is the only area of their lives in which they are not mercenary. Excuse me. Okay, alpha vampires. Vampires packs are meritocracies, not democracies. There are no elections, no show of hands in a vampire pack. The most capable hunter and leader runs the show as the strong leads, and the others follow. The alpha vampire coordinates hunting strategy, gives assignments, and makes all final decisions. There are perks to the job. During hunting, the alpha generally hangs back in a less risky position, yet when a victim is seized, the alpha drinks first. But the job has its perils, too. For one, the alpha has a difficult task of choosing replacements for fallen packmates. In this, it must walk a fine line. While the alpha must be stronger than its fellow packmates, it cannot afford to carry weak, ineffectual hunters in the pack. But stronger packmates can rise up and become a threat to its position. Like virtually all mammals, vampires assert their dominance through display, behavior, and fighting. Vampires hiss, bare fangs, claws, showcase their pride. prodigious leaping abilities and to try to intimidate rivals. Physical size and power are important, but by no means the only determinant of alpha status. In fact, intellectual capacity is more important than physical prowess in determining success and longevity as a vampire. While alpha vampires would seem to be in an enviable position, they actually have higher mortality rate than the non-alphas. Each new challenge to an alpha vampire from within the pack takes its toll. Injuries pile up, including many of the permanently disabling variety. Vampires can lose an eye, have flesh torn off, break bones. Older vampires are far from the dashing, handsome types often seen in movies. The older vampire is likely to be heavily scarred, with parts of its face missing. The ultimate fate of the alpha vampire is a grim one, cast out of the safety of the pack, no longer able to fight. The once powerful vampire is reduced to a solitary existence, subsisting on the blood of whatever cat or dog it can win the confidence of. Eventually the alpha succumbs to malnourishment or the weapons of the vampire hunters. And I'm sure everybody's seen Interview with a Vampire. They follow this to a T. And you know, I don't know if a lot of you may not believe in this. A lot of you may think this is made up. But actually, whoever wrote this is very accurate. And they're very scientific in their approach. This is quite interesting. So anyway, fledglings, when a recently transformed vampire joins a pack, you know, you can come in and read all this. It talks about under the wing of an elder to help fledgling learn how to hunt. Hunting, goes on to treatment of victims. I'll leave a link to this, website, and everybody can come check it out. Like I said, it was Joey B who talked about it briefly. I thought I would go check it out because it looked interesting. And at first I thought, like I said, man, this has got to be some kind of hoaxy stuff, right? And but their information is as scientific and accurate as any real information concerning these creatures. You know, I don't know. A lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, you're crazy." Well, not so much, man. Or maybe so, but what's that got to do with it? So they keep going. They got myths, famous victims, and then versus zombies. Isn't that interesting? Famous victims. Let's check that out real quick while we're here. Giuliano de Medici and Simonetti Vespucci, Florence's #1 couple. Ivan the Terrible. After transformation, Ivan used his family as a personal smorgasbord, drinking the blood of his son and daughter-in-law before he was killed by palace guards. Nat Turner. Turner turned his bloodlust in full-scale insurrection by leading other transformed slaves on a hunting spree across Virginia countryside. All told, his pack killed 50 before the local militia put an end to them. Edgar Allan Poe, the master of the fictional macabre, met up with the real thing when he stumbled into a couple of vampires while on a bender along the Baltimore waterfront. He was later euthanized at a nearby hospital. Bet you didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that's how he died anyway. Euthanized at a hospital. That's screwed up. If that's true, well, it could always be looked up. Russian mystic Rasputin, advisor to Tsar Nicholas. Russian aristocrats fearful of Rasputin's undue influence over the Tsar's wife, lured him into a vampire hideout in St. Petersburg. After transformation, the mad monk was shot, bludgeoned, and thrown into the Neva River. Yet he still turned up at the palace the following night, whereupon he was beheaded by the Tsarist guards. Warren Harding, the 29th President of the United States. See famous killing cases who killed Warren Harding. And Rudolph Valentino, while in New York City to promote his new movie, the Italian sex symbol was lured into a speakeasy, then set upon by a hunting pack. He managed to get back to his hotel, where he was eventually euthanized. The studio claimed his death was caused by a bleeding ulcer. Interesting. Dango Productions, Inc. So you people can make of it what you want, what you will. And but with the zombie scares going on, here we go with zombies. Fighting zombies is risky business. You don't want to be caught off guard. See casino games and stuff. That's so funny. Anyway, virus. Let's see what they say about zombie viruses. The Science of Zombie by Federal Vampire Zombie Agency. Do you have the virus? Click here to find out. Zombie plague spreaders, the Norway rat and tick. Perhaps because they were easier to control and kill, zombies never acquired the cache of their undead cousins, the vampires. This phenomenon extended to science. Zombie research was considered a less glamorous field and consistently lagged behind vampire research and funding. Since development of the vaccine in 1911, the zombie threat had been greatly reduced. However, this should not make us complacent. Most experts believe that in today's world, a zombie outbreak is far more likely than a vampire outbreak. The virus, the zombie virus, comes from the same family as the human vampire virus. The virus is propagated mainly through ticks of the family Xoxoididae. And, I may not pronounce that right, but whatever. The prevalence of these ticks in tropical climes, such as Florida, is the main reason for the large number of the outbreaks in those regions. The nature of the spread zombie plagues generally depended on the place of origin. Most urban plagues were spread by aggressive rats and had been bitten by a tick, and in the country the tick would bite humans directly or pass the virus through mice, raccoons, and other animals, as was the case with vampirism. The people infected with the virus would pass it from their saliva into the bloodstream of another through the zombie bite. The stages of the disease, the stage of zombie, are the same that occur in vampires, with two major differences. In zombies, the onset of symptoms and transformation occurs much faster and has no relation to the cycles of day and night. Stage 1, infection. Symptoms of the zombie infection appear quickly. Within 1 or 2 hours, the victim will develop a headache, fever, chills, and other flu-like symptoms. Zombie infections last about half as long as their vampiric counterparts, mostly between 3 and 6 hours, during which the vaccine is 100% effective. Stage 2, coma. The zombie comas are considerably more brief than vampiric comas. While physiological changes, slow pulse, shallow breathing are similar, the coma lasts only between 4 and 6 hours. Only the very young and very old do not survive zombie comas. Zombies have been found as young as 5 years old and as old as 90. As with vampires, the vaccine is 50% effective when administered during the stage 2 of the infection. The longer the victim has been in the coma, the less effective the vaccine. Stage 3, transformation. Zombies awaken from their comas in a catatonic state. They are unresponsive to most stimuli as they shuffle about trying to locate their prey. Unlike vampires, there is no acclimation period. A zombie will begin hunting immediately upon transformation. And this is a zombie bite victim under quarantine in Panama in 1905, so they say. And we can go to Zombie Biology Part 2. And it goes into, look at that. Atrophy of the brain. Because of their catatonic state, zombies have been able unable to offer any personal testimony to augment scientific research. Therefore, all we know about zombies is based on empirical evidence. A person infected with the zombie virus is transformed into a single-minded hunting machine with all changes to bodily function serving the zombie imperative: locate prey, capture prey, and feed. Overall, the changes that take place in zombies are more limited than in vampires and primarily affect the nervous system and musculoskeletal system. The brain, nervous system, has been of great interest to researchers, as zombie nervous tissue appears to have regenerative properties not found in humans. Okay, I'm going to stop here for just a second, because regenerative properties not found in humans. So this would be why the experimentation. We know that the experimentation at the University of Miami was going on with this virus, and this is where these, some of the, I guess the main concentration of these zombie attacks have been happening lately. And then you take that on top of synthetic genome, Craig Venter, the Gulf, and what they sprayed down there in this funny synthetic genome that not only eats oil, it seems to eat everything else in its path, and also it seems to mutate. And there's videos that I put up a couple years ago from Galactic Wacko. It's still posted on my uploads concerning that. It's called synthetic genome, the Gulf syndrome or something like that. And anyway, so the brain, because it's so little of it's crucial to their survival, zombies can survive an enormous loss of brain tissue. Former FVZA zombie specialist Dr. Waxman Heimelberger tells of encountering a zombie who had lost over 3/4 of its head from a shotgun blast with no apparent effect. Spine and nervous system zombies have exhibited the ability to withstand significant trauma to their central nervous system. In a famous series of experiments conducted by FVZA scientists in 1972, zombies who had their spinal cord severed regained the ability to walk within 24 hours. Thus far, researchers have been unable to unlock the mechanism for this process of repair. Dopamine, the smell of living flesh, triggers a large release of this adrenaline-like neurotransmitter into the zombie brain. Sense organs, follow your nose, might be the zombie motto. The zombie's powerful sense of smell compensates for the weakness of their other senses. Sight, due to degradation of their cornea, zombies suffer from severe myopia. In addition, they are colorblind. Hearing, zombies go deaf within a few weeks of transformation. Efforts to rehabilitate them through ASL training have thus far proved unsuccessful. Smell, zombies have even more receptor cells than vampires. If the wind is right, zombies can smell humans from as far as several miles away. Circulatory system. As anybody who ever emptied his gun into an advancing zombie can tell you, zombies don't bleed to death. Their circulatory adaptations allow them to survive wounds that would kill a human. They had to shoot that guy, 7 times, they said, in Miami, to stop him from eating that other guy's face last week. Blood. Zombie blood is thick and black, hence the nickname zombie oil. Heart. As with vampires, zombie blood is circulated by skeletal muscles rather than the heart. Zombie core body temperature ranges between 65 and 75 degrees, making them slightly warmer than vampires. This is due to heat released by various parasites living in zombie flesh, a phenomenon that causes zombies to emit steam in cool weather and a phosphorescence when in water. Musculoskeletal system and connective tissue changes here are of good news, bad news variety. Yes, zombies are stiff-limbed and slow. Yes, they move along in a shuffle rather than a sprint, but they are also very powerful with a vice-like grip and jaws that can bite through metal. The graphic shows normal jaw, zombie jaw. Note the larger jawbone and thicker muscle in the zombie jaw. muscle fibers become concentrated and take on a consistency of nylon rope. Ligaments and tendons thicken. Important modifications occur to the zombie jaw. Extra bone is deposited on the lower jaw to form an attachment point for larger chewing muscles. These adaptations enable zombies to bite through skull bone, get through pillars of their diet, brains and bone marrow. Teeth. They're not adapted to the powerful exorcies exerted by the jaw. Teeth crack and fall out, and the holes they leave behind leak sludge like zombie blood. Eventually all their teeth are gone, and the zombie is forced to chew with its exposed jaw bones. Hair. Zombies who live long enough will lose all their hair. Decay sets in shortly after transformation of the skin. Skin turns leathery and rots away. Aging and life expectancy. The great irony of zombie life is that even as they voraciously feed, they too are being fed upon. A zombie's body is like a big petri dish, serving host to everything from bacteria to fungi to maggots and ants. The resulting state of putrefaction means, as terrifying a zombie as maybe to the eye, it actually commits far worse offense to the nose. And they get drink of water. Okay, we're at the end of this anyway, I think, here on this one. And this is updated in 2011. Instead of 2008, the vampire page is 2008. Long-held common misconception is that zombies, and wasn't it 2011 when the CDC came out with their, or was that this year? Zombie apocalypse warning. Are you serious? Yeah, that's what I said when it came out, but they did. Controlled Center for Disease Control. What a bizarre time we live in. It is possible to determine a zombie's age based on their external appearance, specifically their level of decomposition, also known as necrotic degradation. Skin is mottled, covered with open sores. Stage 2, the ears and nose are rotting away, loss of fingers and toes. In Stage 3, large areas of skull and bone, loss of limbs, most of the teeth are gone, and one or both eyes fall out. And necrotic degradation. Quite interesting, huh? So, here's your zombies. And, of the parasitic kind, which is the only kind that science is going to recognize. So we have all kinds of sections here, and you can check it out. You've got a section on werewolves, oh boy. So they did on occasion conduct werewolf investigations. In fact, werewolf incidents became such a concern that the Academy Circulum was expanded in 1937 to include werewolf training. To this day, werewolves remain among the most poorly understood of the creatures of the night. We hope to rectify the situation with the information contained herein. Basically, they don't have any information on werewolves in a scientific sense. So, there you go. Take it, leave it, do whatever you want with it. But I find the explanations as far as the virus is quite interesting, so I thought that I would share them. And thank you for watching.